Hello, welcome once again to Redneck Archaeology. It has been a minute, y'all. In fact, it's been over a year since my last video. I apologize for that, but I haven't been that motivated to produce videos that have more questions than answers. We do have some answers. It's not like I've been screwing off, this past year. I've been getting her done. What I do here is science. Make no mistake about it. It is science. Okay? And science is a process. It's a process called the scientific method. Okay? Unlike what we have here in North America and the, so-called science of human origins, don't fool yourself thinking that, it's science, because it's way more resemblant of religion. And what I mean by that, it is based more on belief than it is evidence. And it is beliefs which, that dismiss valid evidence all the time. Well, anybody in the portable rock art community, they already know this. I mean, it's not like we don't all know what pareidolia is, which I have researched extensively, and well, we'll save that for my next video. This video, I'm going to be talking about North American lithics and patterns in lithics, and this is just common sense stuff. I mean, and the thing is, nowadays, anything you want to know, you can find the information, okay? Autodidactic, or I should say, autodidacticism is alive and well, as it should be, because we just have, so much information right at our fingertips, and you can find anything you want to know, and you can learn about anything you want to know, and, you don't have to have somebody preach it to you. Just research it yourself. It's all there. There is no knowledge base out there that we don't have access to. Anyways, as far as North American lithics, it's pretty ridiculous. It's basically archaeology in North America. Well, archaeology, anthropology, all of it. It's basically, it's dictated by the hierarchy of academia. Okay. So it's not like the NSF, directs where the funding goes, or, any of that. No, it's the hierarchy of academia which dictates how the funding, which we, humanity, provides. Okay? I mean, we created the science, and we still fund the science, and yet, well, as a shareholder, we should all look in on production every once in a while and see how we're getting screwed, because we are, and that's just a fact. And I'm gonna show you some of that today. Portable rock art. Now, yeah, I'm gonna put that on the back burner for a minute. Now, yeah, don't get upset, all you portable rock art enthusiasts, you'll see some portable rock art here. I'm just not going to call a lot of attention to it or anything, because I'm gonna address the authority figures, on their turf, okay? Because portable rock art, well, that's just pareidolia. We all know that, right? Okay, so let's talk about something you're supposed to know about, which is lithics, or stone tools. I mean, that's what archaeology is, basically. The study of these, lithics. And that's how we learn about ancient cultures and all that. However, here in North America, now, it's a lot more widespread than just North America, but I'm going to go ahead and just pick on North America because that's what I know the most about. And, until I lay my hands on lithics from abroad, which, I can see that a lot of it is relative to what we have here, but without being able to lay my hands on it and, assess it in hand with my own eyes, I'm just going to leave that out. But we'll talk about North America. What I do know about is North American lithics. And I know quite a bit about the history of North American archaeology, okay? And it really doesn't get going, as far as most people know, till, the turn of the 20th century and later. It all goes downhill circa 1920, okay? But prior to that, there's a fella by the name of Charles C. Abbott. And he really was the first one to study and document the lithics of North America. Unfortunately, he started in like 1889 and continued through 1919. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1919. Oddly enough, in 1920, this joker by the name of Alice Herdlichka, okay, had blundered his way into a hierarchy position. He was right at the top of the hierarchy of academia. And that's really unfortunate. I mean, just because of who he was. And, you can't really find a lot of the information doing research, but these are facts, and these come from archaeologists and anthropologists, and a lot of these people actually know about Alice Herdlichka, okay? And the thing is, while he was at the top of this hierarchy, it was common practice for him to destroy the careers of anyone who presented evidence which contradicted his own theories. It's a fact, okay? And this happened up until he was challenged by, and unfortunately, I don't even recall his name, but he was a curator with the Denver Museum. And he's the first one to really challenge him and his practices. But, I mean, this guy, as I said, he would as soon throw humanity under the bus for his own ego, So, it's really, what's really shocking about that is that anthropology still has a annual award with his name on it. That's kind of sketchy right there. But I don't think things have changed all that much since he was at the top of the hierarchy. It's really not much difference. It's about egos and arrogance and whatnot. But prior to 1920, okay, Charles C. Abbott, he did a lot of research regarding the lithics of North America and stone tools, and he released several publications during that time. He was also a naturalist and published a lot of books regarding, you know, wildlife and plants and whatnot. But and I'm not too familiar with his work, but what I am familiar with of his work tells me he was really a pretty brilliant guy. One of his observations that he made, I believe it was probably 1899, I believe, when the publication came out. It was called 10 Years of Digging, something to that effect, where and he documented his findings. And a lot of the things that he had documented were tools that I myself study. He just didn't go quite as far as maybe he could have. I don't know. A lot of my assessments come from a background of, you know, outdoor lore and wilderness survival and all that. So I do know a few things about, you know, what the needs of surviving in the wilderness, you know. And doesn't matter when, those needs have never really changed, and they never will. I mean, it always requires the same things. And, you know, whether you're working with stone or you're working with steel, whatever, it requires the same things, okay? Now, I'm not going to tell you that I can explain all of these lithics as far as actual purpose, but I can show you what constitutes a stone tool. And you know, this is not speculation. This takes several elements and combines them to verify that a stone tool is a stone tool, okay? And it starts out pretty much the same, you know, as archaeologists, although, you know, they're so bent on proof of this and proof. We're talking about theoretical science, and there is no such animal as proof in theoretical science. There is only evidence, okay? And the evidence I'm going to present today is as strong as any evidence there is regarding stone tools and lithics and whatnot. Because, you know, it's not just about assessing whether or not, you know, man, you know, there's no question whether man made, you know, these alterations. When you combine it with all the other aspects of what makes a stone tool, okay? Now, we can talk about stone hardness and all that stuff, but, you know, there really is no specific hardness or anything like that, because I don't think there's a stone out there that doesn't have some, you know, structural quality or whatever that cannot be used as a tool in some way. And they don't have to be hard. I mean, sandstones, whatever, you know, grinding. There are many purposes for stone. I figured this out, you know, way back in my youth. I was out in the Joshua Tree National Monument in California. And me and a bunch of other crazy jarheads running around the monument having fun. And we happened to notice there's a lot of lizards out there, and it was like just kind of a game. Hey, who's the first one that can catch one of these lizards? And well, these things are fast. No, none of us can catch them. But I mean, guys were throwing rocks trying to hit them. That requires some really pinpoint accuracy, to hit a lizard. And of course, none of us could. Of course, a few beers didn't help that any at all. But I had happened to notice a stone structure or whatever that consisted of this really sharp and small gravel that was cemented together by a soft sediment. Okay, and so I took a chunk of this and I hurl it in the direction of a lizard. Well, of course, just like anyone else, I was off by, maybe a foot or so. However, on impact, the stone, the stuff comes apart, turns into shrapnel, and just, the shrapnel knocks the lizard unconscious. And, that was the deal. Hey, it worked, and it worked many times. We knocked out a lot of lizards. Now, don't fret. I don't think any of them actually lost their lives over it, but it would knock them for a loop and stun them, is what it did. It would stun them, and eventually they'd, regain consciousness and take off. But it worked. I mean, if you were trying to survive eating nothing but lizards, there was a great stone tool, So anyways, let's get on with this. There's too much speculation, and this is on archaeologists, okay? And this has been this way for a long time now. Like I said, this supposed science is based on beliefs, man, just like a religion, okay? And a lot of their, natural occurrence. You hear that all the time with portable rock art, but it happens with stone tools, and that's how I got involved in this to begin with. I got so many rejections from local archaeologists until I finally researched, archaeologists to figure out, hey, who's familiar with some of the oldest stuff. And at the time, I didn't know much about North American archaeology or who's who in North American archaeology. But, I found one, and so I submitted the same photo evidence to him as I had all the local archaeologists who, summed it up to, natural occurrence. And sure enough, he confirmed that at least some of what I presented were flakes or flake tools. Okay. And, of course, being a little bit overzealous, having been rejected so many times, kind of let it slip that he had, unwittingly thrown his colleagues under the bus. And, well, that's the last response I got from him. And, I'm going to go ahead and name some names here because, I want to confront these guys directly. I mean, and if they want to, dispute anything that I'm saying, well, bring some science. Bring some science, not the usual speculation, because I'm telling you what, this natural occurrence stuff, speculation, there's not an ounce of science in it. It's all based on beliefs. Well, it can't exist because, that's not the way we believe it happened. Okay. Well, in 1920, Alice Hrdlicka introduces the theory of the human colonization of the Americas. Okay, in 1920. Like I said, before that, Charles C. Abbott had researched the lithics and stuff from 1889 through 1919, and as I said, he He passed away in 1919. So, of course, 1920, Alice Hrdlicka presents his award-winning theory, uncontested. Well, you shouldn't confuse this award-winning theory with scientific theory, because that is not a scientific theory. Scientific theory is based, is arrived at through the process known as the scientific method. And if you do not adhere to that, then it's not scientific theory. And in fact, if you're, if it falls short of being compatible with the scientific method, then it becomes a little more than pseudoscience. Yep, that's right, pseudoscience. And there is a lot of that in archaeology. And, well, like I said, it's more like a religion, the gospel, according to Darwin or his disciples or whatever. But, and the fact is, if Darwin were around today, I seriously doubt he would, be trying to sell the same thing, because given the fossil record and all, I mean, human evolution theory was always based on one assumption. And that assumption was that we would find the missing link. Well, unfortunately, we have not found the missing link. Although, it was suspected we had. It's all been disputed, and credibly disputed. Not the way they dispute, like, lithics and stuff here, or portable rock art as natural occurrence. One of the things, probably the most common thing as far as natural occurrence, be something like this. And this, I can tell you that I've had that assessment that this was natural occurrence, okay? This is actually stone tool identification 101. It's called overlapping flake scars, okay? These are percussion flake scars, okay? They removed this material with percussion strikes, and they make these concave flakes. But, being how it is not, oh, look at there, portable rock art, okay. For some of you, might appreciate that. Anyways, they chalk this up to what they call steamroll effect, okay? And that's pure speculation. I'm telling you, there's not an ounce of science involved. It didn't even start out as a steamroll effect. They had to change the name. It was originally something that actually happens. It's called pot lid effect, okay? And unfortunately, I don't have any examples right here to show you, but I've seen pot lid effect, and I'm pretty familiar with many examples of pot lid effect, and it's just what it sounds like, pot lid, okay? Rapid heating and cooling of the stone, it causes these little round, pot lids to pop away from the stone, and it leaves these little pits, okay? And there's usually a lot of them. On anything that has pot lid effect, you'll usually find a lot of these little, and they're all small. Nothing has ever, any examples of pot lid effect have ever come close to, appearing as overlapping flake scars, okay? So then they change it up. They call it steamroll effect. Well, there's no science in that, and there never has been. There's never been, there are no real comparison models. I mean, in science, okay, if you're going to claim that this is caused by rapid heating and cooling, then create a damn comparison model, okay? If that's all it's steam and steamroll effect. Well, you can't recreate that nowadays, in this modern day and age, you cannot recreate those, temperature extremes in the steam that you claim are responsible just to create a comparison model. They've never done that yet. And it's only speculation. Why? Well, it's not, it's not in that publication of known stone tools of North America, approved by the hierarchy of academia or whatnot. That's a fact. It is a fact. If indeed they really, really believe that was the case, that this is a steamroll effect, then produce a damn comparison model and show us this thing you call steamroll effect. They can't, and they won't. Okay? It's a fact. Okay. I had presented this. I felt it would be an easy, a gimme for the guys who, whose balls I've been busting about, portable rock art for a long time. I every once in a while throw them a bone, give them something easy, But the assessment of this, as you can see, overlapping flake scars, stone tool assessment 101. Multiple views of this, asking them, what do you call this? It's like a hand axe or what? Well, I had two archaeologists were in agreement that these were merely test flakes, and that this was the wrong type of stone, so it was discarded. Wow. Actually, one who was touted as one of the geniuses on this website actually questioned the number of flake scars, as in, well, that's a lot of, test flakes, Well, as a flint knapper and stone chipper, I can tell you the big question there should have been the quality of the flake scars. As you can see, that's a pretty good size flake removal right there. To be the wrong type of stone, Well, the problem is that, like I said, number one, it's not in the publication of, the known stone tools of North America, which is approved by the hierarchy of academia. But the fact is, these flake removals were not typical of flake removals. These are typically done for functionality, I mean, these guys know all about a shiny biface projectile point, but they really don't know anything about early stone tools. And even what's available information, all this stuff comes from Europe and whatnot, where lithic sourcing is a whole different thing. Over there, it's flint, Flint is everywhere there. Here, not so much. And although, you hear the term flint and all this as far as stone tools here, actual flint is not abundant here. It's actually quite rare. But they call things like chert, they call that flint, or other things, volcanic glass and stuff, they'll call it flint, but it's not really flint. And in fact, where I'm at, we actually have the Flint Hills. They call it the Flint Hills, but there's no flint. It's really just chert, okay? And chert, it can be similar. The thing with flint is it's a microcrystalline structure, which breaks a lot like glass, and it's real predictable. You can remove flakes and stuff in a predictable manner. And chert, a lot of it to make, biface projectile points, a lot of it actually had to be heat treated, and they did it with firing on, and it actually changes it slightly and molecularly to where it's much more like natural flint or volcanic glass, and it just gives it a lot more predictable flaking. It makes it more like a microcrystalline structure, more like glass. But anyways, these flake removals here had nothing to do with the functionality. These were actually for ergonomics. And that's the thing about stone tools, early stone tools especially. Ergonomics are always spot on. And I'm going to tell you, that was a must. Because, I mean, hey, you get so much as a blister, hey, it can get infected, you could freaking die, right? But if we look here, and speaking of lithic reduction, you look here, and probably half the archaeologists here can't even tell you about this, but you'll see this, there's an energy transfer pattern, which begins in the middle and goes in two different directions, this way and that way. What that indicates is a hammer and anvil strike, which means that this stone was placed on a anvil stone and then struck with a hammer stone to remove this. As you can see, it's kind of a concave. It removed this whole side of this came off with that strike. Okay. Now, if we look here at the end, here's our functionality. Okay.